The Porsche Carrera Cup, one of the fastest and most spectacular German brand cups, in a perfect interaction, driver, team and car put on a tremendous show each and every race weekend. The more horsepower, the more important are reliable tires. For at least 12 years, Porsche partner Michelin is responsible for the special developed race tires. In fact, every team is allowed to use as many wets as necessary, but only could draw back on a limited number of slicks.
Der Ablauf der Veranstaltung am Wochenende ist wie folgt.
Our weekend schedule is 2 free practices of 30 minutes duration. Usually, we take last race's tires for that.
Dann gibt es fürs Qualifying Rennen 1 und Rennen 2.
For qualifying race 1 and race 2, we provide 3 new tire sets. This is the weekend's total amount.
Und dann eben dieses Rennen fährt.
Even the distribution to the teams is rule-based and well adjusted.
Das geht über eine Lotterie.
We spread the tires by chance. Every team receives 3 sets. In a lottery, the teams draw their tires for the whole weekend. After the second practice, the tires get mounted, marked, registered, and 1.5 hours before the race delivered to the teams.
Dann werden sie unmittelbar so 1,5 Stunden vor der Veranstaltung an die Teams ausgegeben.
This weekend, the Carrera Cup is hosted by Norris Ring. Often compared to the unique Monaco race, this track is all but usual.
Das Rennen am Norisring findet auf einem Stadtkurs
This race at Nuremberg is a city circuit. It is not a permanent racetrack. We have different floor surfaces. The track's layout is unique and only a short distance of 2.6 kilometers. Especially in the 2 hairpins and the chicane, it's all about mechanical grip on the braking and throttling in the low-speed corners. The slicks are perfect to put balance and power on the track.
Am besten, wenn man ein tolles Setup hat, wo man mit den niedrigen Geschwindigkeiten sehr viel Kraft übertragen kann.
In case of wet conditions, like heavy rain in 2011, the wet tires are in demand, which is very challenging due to the extraordinary floor surface.
Wenn es regnet, dann ist
In the wet,
Aquaplaning
you have to
gefragt
battle
am Norris Ring.
aquaplaning.
Der Reifen muss viel
The tire
Wasser
has to
aufnehmen,
push the
muss
water
auf den
aside,
unterschiedlichen
but also
Belegen
has to
trotzdem
find
Grip
grip
finden
on the
und hat
different
eigentlich
surfaces.
permanent zu tun
It has
mit dem
always to
schnellen
deal
Wechsel von
with
viel
a switch
Wasser,
between
wenig
lots
Wasser.
of water
Also
and
eine
less.
nicht-permanente
Usually,
Rennstrecke
a
ist
non-permanent
sehr
racetrack
uneben. Da
is
ist einfach
bumpy.
viel mehr Wasser
That's
auf
why
der
there is
Piste,
more
mit dem
water
der
on
Reifen
it.
fertig werden muss.
"30 degrees or more, aquaplaning only in the pool. Even the surface is suffering. After nightly constructions, you better hit the race line. In the qualifying session, an exclamation mark by René Rast, 2 poles by the German, and an early rest after work is done. Perfect result for tolimit, as teammate Sean Edwards heats on P2 in both races. The qualifying was perfect. I gained pole for today and tomorrow with a 0.2 of a second gap, which is unusual for Norris Ring. Big team effort, double pole for me, Sean P2 and Klaus P4. It seemed our car is doing well. The overall leader Kevin Estre with a 0.03 of a second gap on P3, still in striking distance. The traditional race in Nuremberg, the Norris Ring, traditional in extreme heat. 35 degrees outside temperature, some people even can't trust their eyes. Kevin Estre, do you think it's gonna rain? No, it's just all about sun protection. The fans in a good mood, always properly filled stands at Norris Ring. At the start, René Rast moves onto the inner lane to defend his position. Behind, Englishman Sean Edwards loses one to Kevin Estre. Then, the big trouble is yet to come. Michael Christensen loses grip while rattling over the curbs and messes up the leading group. In the replay you can see him miscalculating his speed and hitting Sean Edwards, Kevin Estre and Nicky Thiem. The rest is a big mess. Celebrity outs. Danish Dynamite Nicky Thiem retires his 450 horsepowers. Overall leader Kevin Estre as well. Game over. Then the tremendous comeback of Sean Edwards begins. First, he passes Klaus Bachler after paint exchange. Then it is Philipp Frommenwieler saying hello to the Wall of Champions and losing his spot to Edwards. Then Franz Conrad received mail from the stewards. His driver, Michael Christensen, with a drive-through penalty of causing a collision. After that, Edwards on P3. What a ride. But untouchable in front, René Rast. Followed by Spielberg winner Norbert Siedler. But Rast, winner of the Super Cup race in Valencia, wins again. After that, it's all about celebration. Team manager Hans-Bert comes cheering at the control bridge. The result? Rast first, Siedler second, and after a great effort, Sean Edwards on 3. We know about our qualities. As you saw today, you can lose points very quickly like Kevin did. I am very happy to be mid-season champion. Let's see how it goes. And the new overall leader René Rast taking the lead from Frenchman Kevin Estre. Second is Sean Edwards and third, leaving behind Kevin Estre. But the winner is René Rast.
Johnson. Start. Hello everyone, welcome to the Norris Ring this early Sunday morning for the second round here of the Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland. Everything is set, but just look at the track surface, it is wet. There was a massive thunderstorm overnight. We've had rain this morning, completely different conditions to yesterday. A big race coming up, and there is Shaun Edwards, who'll be looking to close the gap at the top of the table. And it's only 1 point between him and his teammate René Rast. They were having breakfast together. Don't know if they discussed any tactics or strategy, but it should be interesting. Yes, welcome everyone. I'm Andrew Marriott, joined in the commentary box here by Ben Constantiouris. And Ben, we had an exciting start to yesterday's race.
Yeah, in the dry conditions. And the cars here will be heading down towards that very tight first hairpin in wet conditions, having not previously driven in this circuit in the wet this year. They're going to have 2 formation laps to get them accustomed to the circuit, which is drying in parts, but I would suggest that all the cars will be on the wet Michelin tyre for the majority of the race, which will be interesting to see how they manage the tyres come the end of the race. The race is 35 minutes. Or a set amount of laps, and it's been pretty close. As soon as we get a safety car, we'll go to that 35 minutes. Most of the races so far this weekend have had safety cars, except of course for the first Porsche race that had plenty of action anyway. They just managed to avoid having any yellow flag zones.
And a lot of the action happened at this Grundig hairpin here, and on the opening lap the youngster Michael Christensen came diving down the inside and dive bombed everyone and caused a lot of mayhem, and then there was a traffic jam behind him.
Yeah, and Klaus Bachler did the same to his teammate Shaun Edwards later on in the race. Shaun actually got away with that and therefore did pick up points for 3rd position, but compromised massively at the start when Christensen had his dive bomb. One of the big losers was Kevin Estre, who was leading the championship up to the point at the start of the weekend. And you can see, look, middle of the road already drying. This is going to be very interesting. I wonder if anyone will decide to go into the pits and maybe try and get some slick tyres on. It's only that particular bit of tarmac, though, that is dry at the moment. The rest still very slick.
Remember, this is public road. That rain was so intense last night with that thunderstorm that I think it's like a green track again. But, of course, as it's public road, there's various stains, there's bits of diesel, there's stuff that's down in the porous nature of the circuit. Here is the grid: Rast and Edwards, Estre and Bachler, Tim and Seidler. Frommenweiler had a very good race yesterday. Clemens Schmidt, Eng and the Dutchman Van Lagen. Then Laser, Jan. Christensen actually goes back to 13th. He had a drive-through penalty, but he's also been given a 5-place punishment down the back of the grid. And they're going to the rest of the drivers there, and some amateurs at the back in the B category.
Now, for the moment, we can only speculate what tyres they're on, but there's a certain amount of tyre warming going on, not something that you necessarily want to do with wet tyres, especially on a drying surface. So have they gone for the dry tyre, and are we going to therefore see massive fireworks going into this first hairpin on a slick track?
Now, if you're not used to this little and famous racetrack where they've been racing for over 50 years, it's very short indeed, just 2.3 kilometres, and it's basically these days the roads up to a big football stadium. And in fact, just back from where our camera is the football stadium, and you can see some of the parking spaces for that football stadium, and indeed the ice hockey stadium that sits opposite. And there you see the old stained walls of the huge grandstand here, because this was the party rallying grounds in the 1930s, and Adolf Hitler made speeches just from that podium up there. It's just in the corner of your picture, so lots of history here. As the cars come around, there's that podium again. The track really is effectively 2 straights with a little jig behind the stadium. It has been declared officially a wet race.
And that means if they want to, they can use the wet tyre, but they don't have to.
So, getting ready for this all-important race. The great majority of these Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland events have been alongside the DTM, just the one single race supporting the Nuremberg Ring 24 hours. On the full Nordschleife was that. There is René Rast, and Rast been racing these Porsches for a number of years, has been the Carrera Cup champion, has been the Super Cup champion, I think 2 years, Ben. So he's got huge experience in the tolimit racing team, which is sponsored by Deutsche Post, the German post office.
To me, those tyres at the back of the field look like slicks.
Well, somebody might have taken a gamble there. We're ready to go. The lights are on. 4, 5, extinguish, drop the clutch, and Edwards made a much better start than Rast.
Yeah, Rast got massive wheel spin off the line. That'll be down to how much grip he managed to generate in that 2 warm-up laps and get enough heat into their slick tyres. The yellow flags are being readied. Everyone getting very, very late into the hairpin.
Van Lagen goes down the inside and takes the shortcut.
As he did in race 1, in fact. And it didn't work out from then, but everyone has managed to be careful enough and get through that first hairpin.
Look at Rast, he's pushing hard, isn't he? Now the sweep here, right and left. And Rast is really trying to push on. He seemed to have a little bit better traction there, and Rast has just passed, hasn't he?
Yep, Rast ahead now of Edwards, with Estre in third. Van Lagen up to 4th position after that massive start. I wonder if he'll get pulled up for...
Here we are at the other hairpin. This is what I call the lake hairpin. There's a lake just to the side of there.
Backler going backwards in the third of the 2-minute cars. Under pressure there. Oh, and a big spin in the middle of the pack. Oh, is he going to get away with it? Oh, he just about.
Phenomenal avoidances there.
That is Nicky Tim.
Nicky Tim, second-generation racer. His dad, of course, was famous in the DTM.
And still we see Backler being attacked by the Conrad Motorsport cars. That would be Norbert Siedler trying to get past him down the inside of the hairpin, and a big lock-up from Sean Edwards. Runs very, very wide, and surely that's going to allow the 88 car, 99 car, sorry, of Kevin Estre past.
Yeah, so great start from Sean Edwards, but now he's gone backwards, and now he's trying to fight back. And look at Van Lagen going down the inside.
It's going to be the outside for the second hairpin, though. He's on the racing line, and if they do have slick tyres on, that's where they want to be. Oh, a bit of a push round the hairpin. Edwards really struggling in these early laps. He hasn't necessarily got the heat into the tyres that he needs.
Still spray coming from the back of Rast's car, all the cars, as you can see. Other parts of the track drying a bit quicker, I think. 10 laps time, Ben, I think we could see a dry line coming.
Yeah, he's staying off the racing line, René Rast, as he breaks into that first hairpin. Therefore feeling that maybe more grip there. Look what happened further back, just on the power and on the bumps there. The slick tyres of Nicky Tim not giving him enough grip. He's a bit tight through the turn, and all of a sudden the car spins around. He was extremely lucky not to be collected.
So Nicky Tim, who's had a win this season already, Ben, which was at the Norisring Ring. In fact, he made it to 2 in a row, 2 years running there. Some replays here of action down the field.
Yeah, that was Backler and Nicky Tim before his spin. Van Lagen now putting Sean Edwards under huge pressure. We just saw the replay where Edwards snatched a break and ran a little bit wide through the chicane over the start and finishing line to complete lap 2 onto lap 3. Rast very careful in the braking zone, but already a 5-second gap. He won the race yesterday by about 8.5.
Top 5 from 5 different nations. This might be the Deutsche Carrera Cup Deutschland, but it's a fully international championship, and many of the drivers here also competing in the Super Cup, which runs alongside Grand Prix. Some of them driving for one team in this event and a different team in the Super Cup.
You can just see how careful they're having to be at the moment, tiptoeing through the entrance to that chicane. Very little grip online, as you can see.
Yeah, and it's strange. I'm told that you see the concrete blocks there at the side. strange enough, there's a similar sort of grip as there is to the tarmac, which would seem to stand. There's Christina Nielsen, and there is Wolf Nathan, one of the amateur drivers, just getting it half sideways.
Now Wolf looked like he was on the wet tyre there from the moment that he stopped. Just easy to see.
Rast, Estra, Edwards, Seidler, the former GP2 driver and Red Bull tester Michael Ammermuller is not present. He's been racing in all the previous rounds. Possibly, we asked Porsche PR rep what the story was, and she couldn't tell us the full story. We got the feeling that maybe there's a problem with budget as we got this battle going on. Ben?
Yeah, Edwards trying to stay off the racing line for maximum traction.
Yeah, it's still a puddle down there.
Well, you can see how the road tapers away, and that's just pushing the Porsches out towards that wall. But they're being saved, as you said, by the concrete that seems to have a bit more grip. But Edwards really under pressure. Hasn't got the temperature in the tyres, hasn't got the grip of his rivals who've both jetted off ahead. Rast is from Kevin Estra in second position, then this battle for third, and Jaap van Lagen looks as though he is seriously giving Sean Edwards a hard time. Now he goes onto the racing line. It's going to be the outside for the hairpin. Edwards has the inside line. He's been snatching a front brake here in the last few laps, and Van Lagen has to go the long way round. Contact maybe, just about gets away with it. Seidler could see that coming.
Yeah, Edwards put his car in exactly the right place, didn't he, going into that hairpin, but he's still under attack from Van Lagen, the man who raced in Renault 3.5 for a while. Also was the McGann champion on that World Series by Renault program. And now switch to these Porsches. Estra, the young Frenchman, was the French Carrera Cup champion, and in this championship last year he was the Rookie of the Year, showing a lot of speed. Kevin Estra, look at him taking a dive down the inside, and Rast managed to continue to lead this race, pulling away from Estra. And then this battle with Edwards, Van Lagen behind him, Seidler, Backler.
Great to see Backler's now got himself into a bit of a rhythm and caught up on the back. The early laps, it looked like he was really struggling and falling backwards, but now he's right up there with this battle for third position. Super slow through there, and again Edwards goes wide, and this time Jaap van Lagen nicks the line on the exit. Great stuff there.
And now Edwards going to come under attack from his young teammate, I think.
Well, firstly, Seidler's going to try and go around the outside.
Surely he's done it.
Yeah, makes that one stick. It's just whether he's got the grip and traction on the exit here. It seems to be so tricky.
You don't think that Edwards has taken a gamble and gone on the slicks, do you?
Well, someone has, I think. They're still trying to get temperature in the tyres. Van Lagen's
there's a bit that's already dry. Dry on the inside there. Edwards just going backwards.
The racing lines of these cars do suggest that they're not on slick tyres for the most part. But look how much more grip and less rain that there is on the circuit. We're only 7 laps in here, and if anyone has gone onto the slick tyre, it'll be soon that they'll really pick up the pace. The qualifying pace was a 51.6, and we're doing 1 minute at the moment.
Well, looking at the splits, Rast has just gone purple. That's fastest of everyone in the first sector.
Just a replay of Backler going deep, and Edwards also just snatching a front brake, and that just put him offline enough to allow Jaap van Lagen up the inside and into third. There is Van Lagen now trying to get away. Edwards now putting some pressure on Norbert Seidler. They're side by side. Van Lagen still trying to find some temperature in the tyres. I think Van Lagen must be on the slick tyre. Weaving around as he is, it's Backler who's getting past Seidler. So Edwards has been demoted 2 more positions.
Yeah, Edwards has dropped right back to 6th now, having led the race at the start.
They've definitely done something wrong with that car, whether it is the wrong tyre.
And Edwards under further attack, look. Interesting to see young Michael Christensen, who caused that big shunt yesterday, only in 11th place, hasn't made much progress. Tim is back into 13th.
Backler up the inside. Oh, and Norbert Seidler's really missed his breaking point there. And Edwards is going to slot back ahead of him, but Seidler's going to get a slingshot.
Yeah.
Having started that acceleration zone far further back than he should have done. Oh, and I think Backler's lost the rear end. Yes, yellow flag's out. Backler keeps it out of the wall, but he's thrown away 4th position. Seidler up to 4th, Edwards up to 5th.
Tricky conditions here at the Norris Ring near the big town of Nuremberg, city of Nuremberg. Another big Porsche tail slide going on. Interesting story, Ben, the number 11 car. We might just catch that down in 18th place. That is Elia Earhart, who's local to here and used to be a flag marshal at this track.
As you can see, just losing the rear end under braking. So easy to do, snatching a rear brake. The car got sideways and he just never was able to catch it after that. So more work to do then for Backler again. He's dropped all the way down to 9th position. There he is, and a nice queue of cars ahead to try and get past. Look at them twitching as they're accelerating over these bumps.
Now, because he is so far in the lead, we're not seeing much of René Rast, but he has opened up a massive 11.2 second gap over Estra, who's got 9 seconds over that pursuing pack.
The Bill Baritzi, the dentist, getting in the way of our leading pack.
Yep, it's racing under a pseudonym.
And that's a bit of a dive there from Frommenvella down the inside of the second hairpin, and makes it stick, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that hairpin's a bit more open than the one at the other end, the one after the pits. They're hurtling down towards it now. Here is a replay of the start. And just, as you said, Ben, too much wheel spin from Rast, not that he's really hampered him.
No, it hasn't really, has it?
Enger has just done the fastest middle sector of the race, down in 10th place.
Sean Edwards got great bite from his rear tyres, so done a good job to get them some temperature into them. But Rast then had a better acceleration through the second stage of the start. There's Van Lagen going up the inside of 5 or 6 cars just by staying off the circuit. Interesting to see that the stewards haven't pulled that up, so that'll be a lesson for everyone else in all the races today, that they can do that and get away with it.
You see Harry Cole, one of the amateur drivers, used the same tactic. So 11 laps in the book here. Early morning start, not the normal timetable for a DTM weekend.
That was Kevin Estrat, 2nd position, 13.1 seconds back from René Rast. And Van Lagen and further 7 behind him. And actually Van Lagen now has got some clear air and is starting to set about chasing down Kevin Estrat. This is the battle then that we're seeing between Norbert Seidler and Sean Edwards. In fact, it's not, is it? Sean Edwards.
Sean Edwards in that two-limit car.
Yeah, and Jan. So Norbert Seidler's made a little bit of a gap.
Yeah, David Jan.
Then Frommenvella, then Laser, and then Backler.
Edwards, remember, has had 3 victories this season. Rast has had 2.
And that's why it's so surprising to see Edwards going backwards so much.
You've got to believe he's got a problem of some description, whether it is down to the tyres or whether it's down to some other mechanical problem. Difficult to tell from our perspective here in the commentary box. There is Jan, one of the Attempto racing machines. That's one of the big teams. There is René Rast.
So I'd say by the body language of that car that Rast is on the slick tyre. It just looks like it's sticking now, and a wet tyre would be all over the place. As soon as a wet tyre gets too hot, then it starts to really give up, and the car will be all over, like driving on jelly, really. And therefore, I'm pretty sure that Rast has tiptoed around for the first couple of laps and able to make that gap now on the slick tyre. Estra in 2nd position. Then Van Lagen, Seidler, Frommenvella, and this is the battle then between Edwards and Jan for 6th.
Yeah, it's a 5-way struggle, isn't it? These cars as they go past the stadium again. Rast, Estra, Van Lagen, the top 3. You can see how they're spread out. Then Seidler in this big battle. We look down from our camera way up on that crane, down onto this hairpin bend.
Was that Seidler making a move on Van Lagen or just getting past the back marker? Either way, Backler tries to go 3 wide.
Backler the third of the yellow cars.
Yeah, and it's Eng on the very outside, I think, unless that's a back marker as well. No, it's Eng trying to go round out the outside of two of them, and he's going to make that one stick. So Philipp Eng, the ex-Formula 2 driver, great move through the chicane, the first time he's been to the Norris Ring. And a great exit from the first hairpin, got him up alongside these two, and he's got past both of them. Laser now goes past
Laser,
Edwards.
Good move.
No, that's Backler, isn't it?
That's Backler.
Yeah.
Backler's one of those two junior drivers that Porsche selected this year. They've been doing it for many years. Some excellent drivers have come through that program.
Backler back ahead on the exit. Better drive out of that final corner. Now Jan goes to the racing line. Estra to the inside line. The windscreen wipers are on.
Christensen still down in 11th place. He's the other junior driver. Oh, and that's the lady racer who's had a bit of a spin.
So that is a dry line now, isn't it?
Through there, yeah. I mean, this is a circuit of more than one part, as they say in football, isn't it?
There's plenty of different tarmac changes as well to deal with.
Yeah. And of course you've got all the different white lines from the parking and the normal road signs that are here. As we said, these roads are mainly used as a feeder system to the big football stadium.
Philipp Eng has now got the bit between his teeth. Absolutely incredible body language from that car. He's managed to lay down the power, the car bumping around like it's on slick tyres, like it's on a slick track. And all of a sudden up to 8th and starting to chase down Jan and Edwards, who have got back markers ahead.
Looking down at the hairpin again. We've got the battle going on again with the amateur drivers, with Voss leading that at the moment.
Just a quick check-in with René Rast. Just set the fastest lap of the race at a 55.985. Back markers ahead. No need to push because the second place man still hasn't come over the start and finishing line. There he is, 16 seconds back. Yep. Kevin Estra retired from race 1 after contact. Was leading the championship when he came to the Norris Ring and will be wanting to try and close the gap that he's lost from yesterday. But with Rast ahead and Rast leading the championship, it's not going to happen for the moment for Kevin Estra. Jaap van Lagen then 8.6 back, then Seidler on his own, and then the battle between Frommenwelle, Edwards, Jan, Eng, Backler and Laser, and we're looking at them again here. There's Philipp Eng under pressure from Backler, so Backler's got the bit between his teeth and starts to move up again.
Oh, there's one of Franz Conrad's cars with the turquoise eggshell blue on the roof.
See, a normal racing line now being taken by these drivers. They're not searching for the wet conditions to cool down their wet tyres, and that would suggest to me that they were all on the slick tyre at the start of the race. Brave move.
Well, brave move, but maybe one jumped and they all followed suit. Eng and Backler, 8th and 9th. I wonder if this race is going to come back to Edwards a little bit, just looking at his times down there in 6th place. The man who's had 3 wins this season, the man who went so close to winning this championship last year, was just pipped by his fellow Brit, Nick Tandy. Tandy now in the GT Open Championship, where he had a fine win last weekend. Rast, 18 laps in the book.
One of the Comrade cars going slowly. Which one is that? That is Nicky Tim.
Nicky Tim, not been his race, has it? He is going to retire, I'm sure. He's limping at home. Hasn't got a puncture, has he, Ben?
No. Started the weekend in 4th in the championship, so a disappointing time for Tim, who he retired from race 1, I'm pretty sure of it. Had that big spin at the start of this race and now mechanical problems as well, and touring back to the pits.
Danish driver, 4th in this championship a year ago. Came out of Formula Ford racing in Denmark. René Rast now starting to lap people.
Yeah, this is where the pros and the AMs are separated on a wet drying track.
Well, there you see the dry line, don't you now? Absolutely. And I think you're right, Ben. They're not... If they were on the... Oh, and that's our ex-marshal who's backed it into the wall. The local man, Elliot Earhart.
Oh, he was helped as well.
Oh, he was helped, yes.
Oh, and that was Philip Eng, who's burst the radiator, unless Eng's got a teammate.
Well, it looked like it, didn't it?
Oh, he stayed wide, and it was Eng, so Eng's going to be out. Lying in 10th position.
Earhart scattering expensive Porsche parts down the racetrack.
Massive disappointment.
And now he's stopped.
Philip Eng was fastest in the middle of the sector.
He's off the racing line. I just wonder if they'll go full course yellow. I doubt it. Just seeing quickly the car of Pivoda. That's one we've not mentioned much, Ben. Thomas Pivoda started back on row 9. Well, lots of yellow flags waving here. As I said, he's completely off the line.
And he'll know better than anyone where to park his car.
He will.
He'll know where the marshal's posts are.
They could be his
sure.
mates.
Yeah.
Came through the Seat Leon Cup last year.
Now, what René Rast does not need is a safety car. He's built up a huge gap of 15.5 seconds. Kevin Estre now is starting to get the pace and has closed the gap just a little bit.
Just checking Edward's speed. Well, he's running laps high 55s. 55.5 though the last time round.
Estre now goes and does the fastest lap of the race at 54.9. 14.8 the gap now, so the gap is coming down to René Rast.
But I'm sure Rast knows the situation perfectly.
The yellow flags have been withdrawn around the back of the circuit, so they've tidied up Earhart's car.
There's Van Lagen with the sponsorship from a Dutch underfloor heating company.
Oh no, these back markers are really causing
that's Christina
problems,
Nielsen there with the stripy car.
And there goes Philip Eng into the pits. As we predicted, damage to the front left corner, the radiator was burst. The car will be overheating, and after a massive charge from Eng, it's day done for him from 8th position. Big disappointment, and not really his fault either. Pretty mild-mannered, Philip Eng, so he won't be throwing his gloves around. But actually, maybe he's been called in by his team because he seemed a bit confused as to why he was in the pits.
Yeah, well, maybe he didn't have a look at the water temperature gauge. Look at this gaggle of cars here, Ben.
And this is the battle for 14th position with some of Jan van Lagen about to try and get through and lap them.
Yeah, we've got this lapping going on.
That's Edwards in 6th with Jan behind him, but they used to be battling pretty hard, and now it's settled down, isn't it?
I think Edwards now having a bit of a pop at getting back to 5th.
Yeah, Vella just ahead of him there.
Yep. Edwards in the yellow German post office car. German post office being a private company which also encompasses DHL, and they do a lot of sponsorship in motor racing and the DTM. There you see their big signage as well. That's one of their brands, and no doubt they're entertaining lots of guests here. Can't understate how big this Norris Ring meeting is. It's outside the Nuremberg Ring 24 hours, and the German Grand Prix has the biggest crowd here in Germany. I reckon well over 200,000 people over the 3 days. Don't know if anybody's been put off by the weather this morning. The thunderstorm last night was just unbelievable. And there's Kevin Estre. Look at that lock-up.
It's a big lock-up as well. That's not going to be very pleasant for the rest of the race. Vella as well on the right front. And as soon as you lock it up once, you'll just keep finding that same spot.
Yeah, it finds that flat spot and locks up in the same place. Feel it through the steering as well.
I'm surprised that Jan van Lagen isn't under investigation. Really am. Philip Eng's under investigation for obviously that contact with Earhart. I don't think that really was his fault, because Erhardt was a lap down. There was no passing going on.
Paid the penalty anyway, hasn't he?
Exactly. But Jaap van Lagen started on row 5, so 10th position, and by the exit of the first turn, he was in 4th.
Yeah.
And we know exactly how he did that, yeah.
From the Dutchman. He's got his team owner and sponsor further back in the race. That's Wolf Nathan.
Of course, a very, very successful Porsche driver as well was Van Lagen, before he then switched to the Works Lada team for a while.
Yeah,
World Touring Cars. We'll come back to Porsche for this season.
Started his career racing in a Citroën Saxo. He was the champion in 1998.
It's been around a while. That must have been the Dutch Championship. They do love their one-make series in Holland.
They certainly do. And then he raced in Formula Ford as well. But he's been here in this championship. This is his second year. 4th in the Super Cup back in 2010. Always well funded.
Yeah, he was doing that alongside his World Touring Car commitments. It was a busy year. So Rast now set the fastest lap of the race with a 53.4. Estra's done a 53.8, so that's not changing too much. And the times continually come down.
Yeah, we're the best part 3/4 of the way through this race now.
Seeing plenty of overtaking, but I promise you it is not for position.
No, this is
all lapping.
Vos there keeping out of the way in the green car. Strange enough, most of the amateur drivers are from Holland. The whole group of them. They usually race pretty close together. I notice they're currently in 14th, 15th and 16th positions. And that is the battle for that amateur class victory.
So Sean Edwards then still putting pressure on from Vella ahead of him. Oh, and Backler gets caught up with the back marker there.
That was Cole, yes.
That's exactly what happened to Paul Philip Eng.
And the trouble is those back markers are having their own battle for this B championship. They're all racing together.
Look at Backler now, right on the back of Jan. So maybe Backler and Edwards went with the same type of setup, a more slick shod setup, a setup that relied the circuit to dry quicker, whereas Rast has gone with a setup that allows him to have the pace in the damp laps, and now he would struggle just a little bit, but it doesn't matter because he's made up such a massive advantage in the wet. Of course, the way you use the tyre will determine how much grip you'll have throughout the different parts of the race, especially when the circuit is drying like it has been throughout this one. René Rast is up-lapping Christensen now. He's in 10th position. It's not a long race. It was only a 35-minute limit of a race. So that just shows the dominance of René Rast in this particular race, but all weekend as well. Made such a great gap in race 1, helped in part by the gaggle of craziness down at the hairpin, but then he did double his advantage after that.
Yeah, it's been a copybook drive from René Rast. And as we were saying yesterday, this Rast deal came together right at the last few days before the start of the season. He was pretty certain he was going to be racing in the DTM. That didn't happen, and instead he had to pick up this. He had his drive in the Super Cup, but this drive came together right at the last moment. The man who won the Super Cup in 2010 and 2011 won this championship in 2008 from the town of Minden. He lives in Frankfurt now, does René Rast. Bit of a computer buff as well.
Seedler through the hairpin, lying in 4th position, just 1.4 seconds now between him and Jaap van Lagen. That gap has really come down in the last couple of laps, and with 4 laps remaining, 6.5 minutes remaining, we're going to have the full distance and maybe an opportunity for Seedler to get on the podium again.
Got a dry line all the way around now, haven't we, when just patches of damp offline.
Oh, and they would be really struggling if they were on the wet tyre, that's for sure.
Nice shot of Van Lagen. Everyone called it right then at the start.
We definitely saw some wet tyres on the back of the field, maybe in the
Amateur
category.
Playing it a bit safer,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's certainly easier to drive a car on wet tyres in the dry than it is dry tyres in the wet. Van Lagen, third position at present after that interesting start. I don't want to call it stunning because he wasn't really on the circuit, but the stewards have declared it okay. Got him up to fourth. He made progress past Sean Edwards up to third, but now under pressure from Norbert Siedler. Siedler started his day down in row 3 in 6th position, but both Backler and Edwards have gone backwards. Backler now 8th, Edwards 6th.
Look at that, Rast lead now 16 seconds, then another 8 seconds, 8.6 seconds to be exact, back to Van Lagen, and then we've got this battle here, Van Lagen versus Siedler.
Siedler just a little bit late on the brakes, and of course as soon as you do that, you get pushed offline where it's a little bit wetter, and he'll lose ground to Van Lagen through that first hairpin. It was a 19, well actually they both had the same split times through that first sector of the lap.
Look at Rast carving through the field, just about to overtake Pivoda.
No, it's further up the road
it's
than that.
further up than that, yeah.
Unless he's doing Pivoda for another time. Van Lagen dives down the inside of one of the back markers, desperately trying to get away from Siedler, but Siedler has certainly got a little bit of an advantage. That was the 34 car. Did I read that correctly?
No, he passed it, Hannes Weimer, the 51
Weimer.
car, yeah. The Dubai-based driver.
Siedler in the slipstream, goes to the inside line to get past the back marker, who decides to miss his braking point.
Decides to head off to the football stadium.
Look how close it is now, less than a car's length between those two for third position. 2 laps remaining for Siedler to have a go. And Jaap Van Lagen's teammate is just ahead. Now, is there going to be any team games here to prevent Siedler from taking third position away? The lights flash from Jaap Van Lagen.
Can his teammate help him?
Goes
Nathan,
inside.
he's the guy that owns this operation.
But Wolf Nathan's not going to do too much to compromise Siedler. Lets them both pass at the hairpin. And Siedler still attacking then. 1 lap remaining. Rast from Estra, and then this battle for third.
Rast still pulling away from the front of the field. Rast is going to make it a double here at the Norris Ring to put himself well in the lead of the championship. Well, a bit of a little nudge there from Siedler. Van Lagen still holding on. Here's a checkered flag, and the checkered flag falls, and René Rast makes it 2 out of 2 here. He now has 3 victories in the championship, heads the title chase, and René Rast absolutely dominant this weekend.
Here comes Kevin Estra round the final kink of the lap, and it's going to be a simple second for him. Didn't have the pace to chase down Rast at the end, but who's going to be third? Still waiting to see if Van Lagen is ahead still of Siedler. The checker flag is out there side by side over the start and finishing line. Siedler on the right, Jaap Van Lagen on the left, and Siedler just gets it.
Photo finish in the horse racing terms, wasn't it?
Well, it is. It's 0.0 between the two. That is a photo finish.
It looked to me from that angle as they were absolutely wheel nut to wheel nut. Like to see that from another angle.
Our timing screen's displaying only 1/10 of a second, and it does say 0.0, but there is facility to go down to thousandths of a second, and maybe that's where it was, because it's shown Siedler ahead of Van Lagen, and it's corrected itself and stayed the same.
That was close. René Rast bangs on the roof and comes into the pit lane after a dominant drive here. Mastered the conditions, and the team will certainly be celebrating, the tolimit team.
Well, a successful weekend for...
There's the team boss with the curly hair.
René Rast there. Very successful weekend for him, but for the other 2 cars in that team, not so good. There's a checkered flag, the team celebrating.
Yeah.
Estra picking up the second spot as well.
There he is, Paul Schlotman. Sorry, Scholman with the curly hair. Let's have a look at this, Ben.
So this is the final hairpin. A bit of a nudge through the final hairpin. That pushed Jaap van Lagen wide, and Seidler then got side by side with him. Van Lagen got a better drive out of that hairpin, but it was a shorter way round for Seidler. And as they came over the line, it was Seidler by, well, nothing ahead of Van Lagen. But will they investigate that little extra help? We saw it down at the first hairpin, and Seidler did it again at the final hairpin as well.
And for the record, Voss wins the amateur B category. Not for the first time. However, Voss from Arnhem in Holland.
Into Parc Fermé then, René Rast. Double victory here at the Norris Ring in very different conditions.
Can tell he's smiling, although he hasn't got his helmet off yet. It's in the eyes. There's René Rast. Over to the team.
I'm guessing that's his girlfriend.
Well, one would hope so.
Kevin Escher will be mightily happy with that after disappointing retirement in race 1. And a big old hug for your podium finishers. Who is going to take that third step, though? That's the interesting one. Still waiting for them to come into Parc Fermé. Will it be Seidler or Jaap van Lagen? Or are they just going to both stand there? Why not?
Why not? I mean, the dead heat, you can have dead heats. You know, they can be absolutely equal. It's very, very rare. There he is with his team boss. Wonder if he uses curlers for that. Fine mop. But excellent team. Still got some leaden skies here, Ben. There, Rast, Estra, Seidler, and Van Lagen. Just put it like that at the moment.
100th.
Weiler. Oh, they're saying it's a 100th difference. Edwards a disappointing 6. Jan, Backler, Laser, and Michael Christensen, who was a lap behind. At least he kept out of trouble this time. Clemens Schmidt, Gamelf, Voss then winning the amateur category. Pavoda, Kolen, Nathan, Weimer, Barazetti, Christina Nielsen, and Philip Eng, of course, had that problem. And others not to finish, Nicky Tim and the former Marshal, Erhardt. Here's some shots from the race. Robert Seidler, the Austrian driver. Also hugely experienced.
Well, champion last year in the German Super Cup with the #1 plate.
No, the team. Team was
team.
Dick Tandy was the champion.
Of course.
So the one is carried forward. But Seidler finished second in the Super Cup last year.
There's René Rast, perfectly balanced car.
There he is. Maybe he'll have a shave tomorrow morning. There he is. René Rast. 3 different teams represented up there. Have to find out who she is. There's that big screen with the flags. Not seen that before, good idea.
Yeah.
René Rast saw him a couple of years ago in a Volkswagen Sirocco Cup guest car at Oschersleben. Against all the regulars, destroyed them both times. Absolutely destroyed them.
Certainly a real talent and still very young. Still plenty of time to make a proper career out of his Porsche racing.
He wants to go DTM racing. He said it. He said it to me. That's where he wants to be, where he thought he was going to be. There's Franz Conrad, gets a podium finish again. Oh, Ziedler.
By 13/100ths of a second on that podium. That was it.
It's that close. I'd like to see that again. There they are with these interesting trophies. And the group shot. We'll have a second podium then. We'll have Vos, Cole and Nathan. I think we might. 2 Dutchmen again.
The champagne sprays for René Rast. A double victory here and cements himself at the top of the Carrera Cup Deutschland Championship as well as the Super Cup. But next weekend, focusing on the Super Cup duties at Silverstone.
Yep. And of course, this championship takes quite a big break now. Rast with 136 points. Edwards second, 125. Estra right close behind him, 124. There's Ziedler, Van Lagen, Nicky Tim, Michael Christensen, the junior, Ammermuller, who we haven't seen racing this weekend. Then Frommenweiler and Eng, that's the top 10.
And the rain's starting to fall again.
Yes.
Here is that last corner.
We'll see how the bonnet, it took quite a whack, didn't it?
Interesting, yeah, but the Ziedler was completely locked up. It wasn't as though he just blended off the brakes. The front wheels were locked up, which meant that maybe Van Lagen was just trying to place the car on the apex. And then as they came towards the start and finishing line, side by side, this is what 13/100ths looks like.
Some jumping up and down on the podium.
As per usual, the Dutch loving it.
Yep. All of them with cars provided by Land Motorsport. Slight mistake on that graphic. Look like gentlemen drivers, don't they? They can't look about them, you know.
Nice to see them singing along to their national anthem, isn't it? The Dutch do love their motorsport. And
all the cars prepared by the Land Motorsport team.
Yeah, they used to race in the Dutch GT3 Challenge.
Yeah.
But that championship is on its last legs. No Porsche Super Cup or Carrera Cup in Holland, and therefore they have to look elsewhere for their Porsche action. And I suppose
this is where they come.
Yeah, it's the closest place as well.
Yeah. And of course, later in the season they will have a race at Zandvoort alongside the DTM.
So Vos, Colin and Nathan, the Frenchman there.
And they won't be racing again to the middle of August. DTM, of course, heads off in a couple of weeks' time to the event in the Munich Stadium, the non-point scoring event, although highly entertaining. So, not double Dutch, it's triple Dutch up there.
No, but Ziedler's
they haven't had enough of this, have they?
Of course not. Plenty of kissing going on.
I know. It's not very Dutch, is it? Expected in Italy.
Norbert Ziedler was hanging around on the side of the podium there. And there is Bill Barazzi still on the top.
Still, because he's had consistency, so some of these other guys haven't finished. Harry Colin, Wolf Nathan, and Vos, who got the top point score here, just the 6 of them in that B Amateur Championship. I wonder what the rain is doing, Ben. So that's about it here on the Porsche website. Andrew Marriott and Ben Constanduras bringing you the action. And, well, You won't hear us again on this website for a few weeks until the middle of August. There was that great finish, but for now it's goodbye from him and goodbye from me.